Set microphone's working and your microphone works. I'll turn this one off.
Testing, testing, yes, yes, yes.
Righto, so just while everyone's finding themselves a seat and Brian and Sam get ready for their presentation, we'll have a little run through with the for sale and wanted book. So not a lot on offer. So when it comes to for sale, Brian's offering normal scarlet chestnut parrots. Oh, sorry. Normal scarlet chested parrots. Right, so you're doing some hook bills as well. And some diamond cockbirds. So that's from Brian. But wanted, so Graham is looking for 5 finches or ruddies. He wants 2 hens. And Ray is looking for hex longtails, red bills. And he wants 1 pair and a hen. And then last of all, we've got down here Phil. Phil's looking for 2 normal red-faced Gouldian hens. So if you can help any of our members out there, or you want anything at Brian's after, let us know. And these other items will go into the magazine as it always does. All right, now I'm just going to sit down and wait for Brian to start gibbering on about plants.
Okay. We get going. I can't compete with all the voices, so I'll start when you guys stop. Thank you. So I'm going to talk to you tonight about grasses and weeds. These are things that I feed my birds, so it's lots of advice, no responsibility. But I'll be teaching some of you how to suck eggs, I'm sure, but there might be a couple of things here you haven't come across before. All these things that I've got here are samples that I've gathered from my place. So it doesn't look like a weed fest at my place, but after you see some of this stuff, you might think so. So I feed all this stuff, or most of this stuff, to my birds sometime during the year. The thing I feed most often is green panic. I call it green panic. Some people call it Maitland swamp grass. I don't know how many other names there are of it. But it's a very, very vigorous plant. Grows quite tall. It's a perennial. It likes water and it freezes well because I store a lot of this stuff during the summer and feed it out during the winter. So that's what it looks like. The picture on the, so there, that's the, you can see how small the leaves are, and where it's sort of, all the stuff that we feed our birds, if you buy finch mix, it's got all different sorts of millet and canary seed in it, and they are all grasses. So most finches and a lot of parrots will basically eat almost any seed, and there's lots out there if you want to be bothered trying to gather them up. So that picture is a whole massive green panic that I got years ago from Stan Guest and planted it. And at our place we've got a septic tank and it's got a really big absorption trench, and I planted this straight on top of the absorption trench. Perfect. That loves growing there. You're not supposed to drive your car on it or plant anything in it. This stuff's fairly shallow rooted, but does really well. And I harvest a lot of it. So we've got samples here. Have you? Oh, here's one in front. How many did you hand out? Righto, that's it. So I've got samples of most of the stuff I'm talking about. So there's another panic called red. I call it red panic. I don't know what else it is. It looks the same sort of thing. It's less vigorous. It only grows maybe not even to a metre. But it's a hell of a lot easier to pick because I get a callus here from picking all that green panic because I chop it, I pull it out, pull it up, with bits this long, and I cut it just below the panicle and then feed it out that way or freeze it depending on what I want to do with it. I've had some in the freezer for 2 years and still feed it out fine. Sometimes it does, but it doesn't lose. I've noticed early in the year when you're picking it when it's freshly grown, it hangs onto it'll stay on the stalk, whatever you want to call it. But when you're picking it this time of year, often it sheds. But the shed seed is just as good to feed out. And there's some red. No, don't. They're in order. So that's green and red. So give it a look. Right. So that next one's red and green. You can see the difference in it. And I've planted them together, and usually the green stuff overtakes the red. So if you're ever going to grow, like I know Joe Gaffer has got red panic at his place. What do you call that stuff, Joe? What do you call the stuff you grow? Newcastle grass, but it's red, isn't it? Yeah, well, I've got both, but the red stuff's much easier to pick. So that's probably 70% of the stuff I feed during the year is panic, either red or green, mostly green. The next one I feed quite a lot is summer grass. It's fast growing, easy to pick, and it's an annual. I can see two pictures here. I can see the next one coming up, so I'm talking. So this is, my wife got a very nice cottage garden. But if you let the weeds grow, you end up with some really nice summer grass around the edge of it. So this is summer grass that when you mow it this time of year, it'll come up about 2 weeks later, you can pick it again. And it's got a really fine leaf. Fine panicle, whatever you want to call that. And if you look, I tried to take some close-ups, but it's pretty hard with an iPhone. But you can see how small that is. But the finches, they love it. They'll take summer grass in front of panic. And summer grass seeds are smaller than panic seeds. That's a patch of summer grass growing in a vacant spot in my backyard. And you can see it's all starting to brown off. There's basically no seed left on that at all. And I tried to do a close-up. You can see, particularly people, my eyes are not that great and they're getting worse the older I get. All that brown stuff is summer grass, but it's got no seed on it. It's all dropped off. And if you look really closely, I haven't got a pointer, but there's some really faint green stuff at the bottom. So usually it comes up very vigorous, and then the second and third. And the more you cut both or pick panic or summer grass, the more it'll grow until the frost hits it and the frost knocks this off. So, yep. So the next thing, everyone's got this in their backyard. If they've ever bought a plant in a nursery, you've got this. It's called African veld grass, and it basically grows all year round. The birds really love it. I pick it, leaves and all, and I've noticed that both the finches and I've got scarlets, they'll eat the leaves as well as the seeds. That's gone. He's a mile ahead of me. And I think antelopes like it too, from what I can remember. So that's just a couple of pot plants that are growing in the corner, and you can see the veld growing through it. But it grows really well in shade, and once again likes water. As soon as you get about 2 weeks without rain, that hays off. So prairie grass is quite a large plant, grows maybe up to 1.5 metres. Got quite a decent sized seed on it. Parrots really like that. You can pull them apart if you need to, but just trying to leave them in some order so people at the back can see them. It's a perennial and it freezes quite well. Often I'll pick 3 or 4 different grasses in the same day, and if I'm freezing them up, I'll freeze them up as a mixture. There's other stuff that I also pick from time to time, and I've got samples for most of these, but not all of them. Couch grass is my old man's favourite lawn. If you leave that alone, it comes up quite nicely. Very small seed, but the birds like it. Winter grass, which is just starting to come up in your lawn nowadays. That freezes pretty well. I don't like that for some reason. I find it as a bit of a weed. I've sort of dug it out of my place. Bit tall for me. Crow's foot grass, I used to call it crabgrass, but the proper name is, or proper common name is crow's foot grass. It's got a really big seed. Parramatta grass, which is long skinny stuff. Comes up in your lawn, very hard on the mower. I don't know whether anyone's come across buffalo grass seed. If you've got buffalo lawn and it gets a bit away from you in the corner, it'll come up to a seed head. The birds love that as well. Water cooch, I don't have a sample of that, but it's basically a cross between paspalum and cooch. Barnyard grass is, I don't know whether I've got, no, I haven't got any. Barnyard grass, it's a bit like Hungarian millet. It's just a wild version of that. And it's quite a decent sized seed. It looks just like Hungarian millet. And birds like that as well. I'll just let some of these samples catch up. Go back. As a thing comes up in my vegetable patch, it's a wild millet. It looks a lot like panicum, but it's a really tiny, skinny seed. And it basically, as soon as it's half ripe, it drops off. But if you look around, there's heaps of stuff you can feed your birds. Ryegrass comes up in the winter time, freezes quite well. It can be an annual or a perennial. And back. Kangaroo grass. I planted that as an ornamental, but I found the birds like it. And apparently kangaroo grass is one of the most common pasture grasses in Australia. But if you let it go to seed, it's quite a decent sized seed. And what's that one? Is that, say, brome grass? What's that? Which one's kangaroo? That one? What's this one? Yeah. So I started I got a lot of native plants out the front, and I started to plant a few grasses and stuff with them. So that's why I planted that kangaroo grass and found out the birds like that. Then I planted some purple fountain grass, which is Murray's got there, and that's quite pretty, and it comes up quite nicely. And we went to a garden in Melbourne, and there's an increasing trend in gardening of growing ornamental grasses. So I don't know whether you can read the labels on those things or not. Can you read that? I can't read it. Can't get close enough. It's Miscanthon, I think it is. I don't know whether you can read that on the left-hand one. And miscanthus, it's a type of grass, And in this garden, I reckon the guy, he's a collector of grasses, and he must have had 20 different ornamental grasses, and I reckon 15 of them the birds would love. So, you can plant a garden and then rip into it and feed it to your birds as well. And this other stuff is a type of panicum, and the seed on it just looks like red millet. So, amazing what you can find. So that's they're the grasses that I use and feed. Paspalum is another grass, and some people feed it out, but it's got some concerns. It gets an ergot, a fungus that can produce a poisonous fungal growth on the instead of the seed you get a little ergot, a little black thing, and it's toxic. I think most birds won't eat it, but if they were to eat it, I don't think they'd be very happy with it. So you just need to be careful around paspalum. That's another reason I don't like paspalum, because I don't like the way it sticks up, and I don't like it because I'm worried about it poisoning the birds. So I don't feed that, and I get rid of it as quickly as I can. So that's all the grasses, and then weeds. There's probably not as many of them. Supposedly a plant growing where they're not wanted, but some of them are quite useful. And this is amaranthus, which can be a weed. It's all what that was. What was that? Okay, no worries. It's an ornamental plant. This is a weed that's been around since Adam was in nappies, but they've managed to get a whole lot of varieties of it that you can grow in the garden now. They come in reds and oranges and stuff, but this is actually just a straight weed. It's called its common name is redleg. It can be quite large, or you get little tiny things like that. The birds eat the seed on that. It's really small, really tiny seed, and it's something that in Africa they grind it up. I think it's in Africa. They grind it up and make flour out of it. But Cubans and stuff like that, they love it. It's the first thing they go for. And they'll also eat the leaves. We all know what dandelions are. Not to be confused with peter beds. Dandelions have got one flower per flower stalk. The other thing that comes up in your lawn with the multiple flower heads, my mum used to call them peter beds, but they don't have the birds don't like them at all. But dandelion, they'll eat the leaves and the seeds. So any dandelion comes up my place ends up in the parrot cage. Another weed, fat hen, or it's a chenopodium, which is another plant that some nations use, grind up to make flour. And I can remember using that at uni. We used to use it to test for virus testing, because certain viruses produce spots on the leaves. I didn't know I'd be feeding it to my birds so much later on, though. And the other thing that comes up in my garden, and those two dead stalks are actually, it's wild lettuce. Comes up as a really flat thing, like a giant dandelion, and it pushes up a flower spike maybe 3 metres high, produces little tiny yellow flowers, and then thistle-like seeds, and the birds love that as well. And it's out of season at the moment, so that's something it's around in the wintertime when there's not a lot of anything else around. Other samples, I know we've got some in there that I haven't got photos of. There's chickweed. You all know what that is? Yes? It's starting to come up now. The birds really love that. Amaranthus, I mentioned that. The common sow thistle, that's the thing that, milk thistle, whatever you call it. There's also a spiky version of that. The birds will eat that, but I pull all that out because it's hard to handle. Farmer's friend, or devil's pitchfork. You know, that's that thing you used, as a kid, you used to, when it was half ripe, you'd throw it on your mate's back and he'd be walking around with it at school all day. Some birds like that, things like goldfinches like that. And pigweed is, I don't know, it's I hate the plant because it's difficult to control in the garden. Produces lots of seeds, but the parrots and the birds, they like that. So the easiest way to get rid of it at my place is throw it in the bird cage. It never comes out. I think there's a sample of that. It gets a yellow flower. Basically, when it's about this big, it'll produce a seed, so it's really hard to control. And it's a portulaca, so related to the portulaca plants. Also in the veggie patch, I grow this stuff, which I feed. I don't feed lettuce leaves to the birds, but the leaves of the other 3 plants I feed. But also when they've finished and they've gone to seed, silver beet and English spinach in particular, the birds, they'll eat that when it's green, right up until it's matured as a seed. And they particularly like it when it's sort of still green. And I grow a lot of endive, I feed that all the time. And as I said earlier, make hay while the sun shines. So that's my freezer. It's chock-a-block full. I can't get any more in there at the moment. So, but by September, it'll be nearly empty. So I'll sort of starting about June, July and August, I feed all this out. And that's a bag of, I just double bag it, and that's cut and frozen double bag, and that's the green panic, which is probably 3/4 of that freezer's green panic. The rest is summer grass, prairie grass and ryegrass. And ryegrass is one of the mixes in a tonic mix. I think that's the last slide. Oh yeah, there's a question, is it, there's one thing that's a grass. I did know the name of it about 3 years ago. If anyone knows what it is, tell me what it is. Because it's a little thing, grows a bit like veld grass. It's got a really spiky seed, gets in your socks. It's, but I don't know, I can't remember the name of it. If you know what it is, let me know. That's a mystery prize. Okay, thank you. Any questions? Happy to answer them.
Questions?
Do you freeze any of the weed or just the grass? Do you freeze any of the weed or just the grass?
Only the grasses. Anything with a seed. I reckon you could freeze that chickweed, and anything with a seed will freeze all right. It's important that if you do freeze any of this stuff, it's got to be sealed. That's why I double bag it. Sometimes, particularly with the grasses, a sharp stem will punch a hole in the bag, and if it stays there too long and it dries out, you may as well be feeding dry millet to the birds. So I haven't really tried any of those weeds, but anything with a leaf it won't freeze. But I reckon the chickweed won't be no good, but the pigweed and some of those more succulent things that have got decent sized seed, they would probably freeze all right.
Are your birds eating that farmer's friend? Do they eat the farmer's friend? Like that's the little bloody stuff gets all over your socks.
Cobbler's peg's another name for it.
Yeah. Do your birds, like they eat the leaves and stuff?
No, the fat hen, they eat the leaves of the fat hen.
Right.
Not the cobbler's peg. I don't feed that because my neighbour hates it, and it's once you get it in your place, it's hard to get rid of. So I pull it all out.
Yeah.
But I do know some people do feed it to their birds, particularly goldfinches. They like the black seeds.
I was going to say, if you want, I can. I've got about 20 litres of Roundup. I'll give you a litre if you want, Brian. Get rid of some of this crap that you're showing us. But, amazing to think that I've just been mowing all this stuff and poisoning it. I should have been feeding it to the birds.
That's right.
Years ago, I saw red rump parrots feeding on that. I could see them down this laneway, and I wondered what it was, and it was cobbler's pig. But it hadn't got to the stage where it was that hard seed part, so it was more like a little flowery part, and they were feeding on that.
Yeah, I noticed that usually when I'm picking whatever it is, grass or whatever, you can't pick all the same maturity unless you want to sit there for bloody hours. So I just grab by handfuls, and the birds will eat the grass seeds when they're just coming out of the leaf shoot, right up until it's virtually almost dry. So, particularly in a mixed collection, some birds prefer the different stages, but it's a bit like feeding soaked seed. And when in the summertime, now where I'm feeding, I pick a bucket full of that stuff every day. I feed it out, and my seed consumption drops by half. They don't eat as much seed because they're living on the fresh grasses.
Yeah, the good news is I've just discovered tonight that I am actually a gardener after all. Any other questions? Yeah, here's Ivan.
Just on that farmer's trend as well, like you, I'd ignored it for many, many years until one time I saw a flock of red brows eating it. And then I started feeding to my birds, and particularly the cup nesters love it. But at one stage I had scarlets and they'd eat the whole thing. Leaves, seeds, everything. But yeah, I walked past it for many, many years as well. And same with the wild lettuce. You break the stem, and you know, you read before, if it's got any like milky substance, ignore it's toxic. So I didn't collect it, and then one time I thought, bugger, I'd try it. The birds bloody love it.
Early in the season, I pull the leaves off it, particularly when it's hard to get hold of endive, and they don't like it as much as endive, but they'll eat it. And then once it matures, you can harvest it, and
I've seen another
goes for a couple
plant
of months.
that looks a lot like it, because the wild lettuce sort of stops flowering or seeding around December or what have you. And there's another one that comes up. The seed heads are much smaller. It's not as big a plant, and it's got like a purpley blue flower on it. It's finished now as well. It sort of goes till March. Next time I'll bring some in next year.
Bring some in, yeah. I might need to add some to my collection.
It's very similar to wild lettuce, but smaller. Seed head's smaller, but the birds do enjoy eating it too. I'll bring some next year.
Yeah, righto.
We'll have to. It's interesting. Didn't you work all your life, Brian, trying to get rid of all this stuff, and now you're encouraging us to leave our weeds?
Well, I've got it in. I do use a bit of Roundup, so it's a very good thing to put on your absorption trench, I can tell you that. And of course, Kerry likes the place to be neat and tidy, so it's a bit of a battle.
Yeah, I got the same problem too. I've got to mow over the top of all my bird food.
Well, we do it a little bit differently at my place. We've got a few different types of panic that Richard Allen's given us over the years, and we grow them in pots across the front of the aviaries and round the corner, and it keeps it all contained, and we just take a bunch here and there, and sometimes we'll just get the seed heads and poke them straight in the wire, and the birds love that too. Okay, so if we're all done with questions, the last thing I've got to do before... Oh, you got another question over there? Okay.
Firstly, the mystery bag might be cheatgrass or speargrass, two different names for the same thing, I think. The second thing is, have you ever used tiger grass to feed to your birds? Okay.
Not even sure what that is.
You'll have to bring some tiger grass in for us to have a look at.
It could be speargrass, but I'd need to know. I know the Latin name of it, if you know what that is, but I just can't bring it to mind. The other thing I didn't say is, and I notice that people like Joe Cavill, wherever he is, that green panic, I've grown that in my aviaries as well. Birds nest in it, and it grows quite well as long as you can get a bit of water onto it. And it's very vigorous as long as you keep the chestnuts away from it. Yeah, it's a mystery.
All right, any other questions? Okay, so I run a random number generator to figure out who's won the seed tonight. And tonight it's Paul Henry. Congratulations, Paul. You won the seed. All right, so now it's time for Joe to draw our raffle, and we'll bring the evening to a close. Thank you very much.
See you later to those people online. Thank you for joining us. And it has been recorded, so we'll upload it to YouTube or something or other over the next week. Hang on, we better take a picture of Brian.